Hello, hello, beauty superstars. I'm wondering if you or someone you love has ever experienced hair loss. If you have, you know how scary it can be to watch your outside transform, seemingly unable to control it. How frustrating it can be to have your experiences minimized, if even acknowledged at all, or to be told there's nothing we can do. So, my guest this evening is a cosmetologist who has personally experienced the crushing pain of dealing with hair loss, and it actually propelled her to become an advocate for those experiencing hair loss, as well as to help train both hairstylists and dermatologists to better support women, men, and children. Her name is Kai Smith, and while her story is compelling, her passion is unmistakable. And so I can't wait for you to meet her. And I want to welcome you. My name is Mickey Wright, and you are here with Beauty Superstars Talk, which is your backstage pass to experts in beauty. And so thank you so much for joining us tonight. It has actually been quite a week. I really cannot start the show without acknowledging two Black beauty bosses who just won the Oscars this weekend for Best Hair and Makeup in a Motion Picture. Their names are Mia Neal and Jamaica Wilson, and they won for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which was an absolutely fantastic film. And I was recently a guest on Corinne Corbett's podcast, which is Start Right Here. And we were just talking about, how remarkable it is that it's 2021. And until this year, there's never been a Black woman nominated in that category. And so this year there were actually two, and they won. So yes. So they were gorgeous. I really, they won. It's like I have to mention, along with Sergio Lopez Rivera. And I actually just can't say congratulations to them enough. They were gorgeous, a really perfect representation of the beauty industry. And can we give a shout out to Mia Neal's dress and to that really deeply personal speech about her grandfather, who was a Tuskegee Airman. And so it looks like you guys have made my video of them winning and the acceptance speech and all go viral. So thank you so much for, I think sharing this groundbreaking news with the world. It's wonderful news, which we don't get enough of. So we actually hope to have them here on Beauty Superstars Talk soon. So, we're going to try to connect with them and see if we can get them on, because this is really what we're all about. So tonight, we're here to conclude our series on the root of hair loss. We've had some amazing guests and true masterclasses on hair loss and hair replacement. And tonight, I think, will be like a little cherry on the top. And we are going to kind of go in deep this evening. And if you've missed any of the previous ones, you can definitely catch them on beautysuperstars.com, or you can actually go to my YouTube channel, which is Mickey Wright, which is just 1K, but MIKIWRIGHT, and subscribe there and catch all of the replays. For anyone who doesn't know, this show was actually born out of the aftermath of racial tensions in this country. The aftermath of George Floyd's death, and it, expanded quickly to the world and to the beauty industry. And for many months, I said George Floyd's name as an introduction to the show and shared how I had the privilege of being on a couple of Zoom calls with other top Black beauty pros, and how we met and shared stories of, what we do in the industry and incidents of, that range kind of from being marginalized in the industry to outright discrimination. But none of that had stopped anyone on the call, because they were all doing amazing things. And I left there feeling super inspired and with the conviction that these stories just have to be told. So I expanded my platform, and I've been interviewing the best and brightest Black beauty bosses every week for almost a year. And so starting next week and for the entire month of May, we're going to be talking with an incredible list of talented Black beauty bosses on where we are as far as inclusion, diversity, and equity in the beauty industry a year after George Floyd's murder. And where do we go from here? So all of these talks will be really honest, emotional, and potentially raw. My first guest is Fatima Ampy. She is an incredible hair designer. She's a NAHA Award winner, North American Hairstyling Award, for anyone wondering what NAHA is. And it's kind of like the Oscars of the beauty industry. She's an editorial stylist, and yet with all of those accolades, some doors still have remained closed or not as welcoming and open as you might expect. And so all of that simply because of the color of her skin. And don't think I mentioned, but she lives in Minneapolis, and she's not far from where Mr. Floyd was murdered. And just as she was preparing to reopen after the COVID shutdown, as many of us were, her salon was actually destroyed in the riots. And so suffice it to say that her life and career have been turned upside down over the past year, and she has a lot to share on where we are now. So I'm super excited to meet with her, but I know it will be emotional. So I hope you guys will join us to really hear exactly what's gone on from a ground zero perspective. And so my second guest next week, it's going to be a double header. A lot of this month is going to be a double header. So I'll have a second guest, which is a legend in the industry. It's going to be on Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. And she literally wrote the book on successfully freelancing in the beauty industry. Crystal writes the hair, makeup, and fashion styling career guide. It's a lot of words. Sorry about that. Messing up, Crystal. But it's considered the Bible of the industry. And as a former agent for talent in print, video, and film and TV, she's truly an insider to the place where decisions are made on what to feature, who to hire, and who gets promoted. So you won't want to miss what she has to share. She's always very forthcoming, and she's actually coached some of your favorite top artists, including makeup artist extraordinaire Renee Vasquez, film, TV, and stage hairstylist Mandrill Harge, and salon owner and hairstylist Christine Murillo, to name a very few. And she actually works with commercial clients like Target, Reebok, Pepsi, and NFL, to name a few. So Crystal is a true legend, and she will transform the way you think and share her experiences from behind the scenes. So that's all for next week. And then you can't even imagine the rest of the month, but I'll tell you little by little as we go. So I hope you'll mark Tuesdays in May, as well as the first two Thursdays, and the Wednesday, the third week Wednesday. We're going to have a special pop-up talk as well. So please join us, bring your comments, your observations, and even your questions. And part of the mission for Beauty Superstars Talk is actually to bring healing to our beloved beauty industry. So all are invited. And I want to thank our sponsor for this exciting series, which is the Black Beauty Expo, which is the hottest show for Black creative entrepreneurs in hair, fashion, photography, modeling, and makeup industries. And so their next show is August 1st in Atlanta, Georgia. So be sure to follow them and keep up with the latest news for the show. There's a new website, I think, that's launched, and there may be some special vendor packages available. In addition, I am very excited to announce that I'm the Global Education Director for the Black Beauty Expo. So if you are interested in educating, please reach out to me. And if you're not already, I do invite you to follow me on Instagram. We've been sharing this month all kinds of hair loss tips. Again, it's at Mickey Wright, which is MIKIWRIGHT. And again, my name is Mickey, and I'm really glad you're here. Would love to know where you're from, and you can drop it in the comments if you'd like. And I'm actually grateful for the privilege each and every week to meet with amazing Black beauty bosses who are making their mark in the beauty industry. And more than a podcast, this is a movement, and it's to encourage Black excellence, entrepreneurship, to preserve our history, and bring healing to our industry. So if you are loving what we're doing here, you can consider partnering with us. You could contribute $5 or any amount, and you can even sponsor a deserving student or beauty pro with training. So just visit beautysuperstars.com, and you can look for the red button. And as a reminder, all of this hair loss series, all of the talks that we're doing are for both consumers and for beauty pros alike. So please, if you're on, you can tag a client or a colleague who wants to learn more. And if you are watching this on the replay, you can still share it, with someone who may want to learn more about this topic. So without further ado, I want to welcome my guest and share her bio with you before we jump right into her story. So Miss Kai, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I'm just going to read your bio and we are going to go in. So 1 second here. So Kai Smith, often referred to as your hair loss advocate, has been a licensed beauty professional for nearly 3 decades and a practicing trichologist for over a decade. What she preaches, she has also practiced. While battling her own issues with hair loss, Kai made a decision to get to the root cause, not only for herself, but also for the millions of women she would serve. Determined to change the way hairstylists and medical professionals diagnose and treat hair loss, Kai decided to become the missing link between hair care and medicine. Smith is the founder of the American Academy of Hair and Scalp Diseases, where she certifies beauty professionals to become trichologists. She travels the nation educating and empowering first responders, which are hairstylists and barbers, on how to identify, treat, and prevent hair loss in men, women, and children. Kai is also an author, the owner of Hair Loss Management Center of Houston, and coach to many, to name a few, but her role as wife and mom greatly exceeds any role that she fulfills. Smith's mantra is one of help, hope, and hair restoration. She is the authority in hair care, hair loss, and wellness. She believes that success begins with keeping God first and remaining true to yourself. So welcome. I'm super excited you're here.
Hello, I am super excited to be here. How are you?
I am doing great. And I love to start with, how'd you even get into the beauty industry? Because it's always interesting and everybody's story is different.
Well, let's just say that at the tender age of 10, I was the cousin who combed everybody's hair, right? And then I also had an aunt who's 8 years my senior, and she was a licensed cosmetologist. And I always wanted to be like her, looked up to her, and I just kind of gravitated to it. And as soon as I graduated high school at the age of 17, I jumped right into beauty school and started doing everybody in the kitchen and, got that license, and here we are today. So just kind of, it was an innate piece of me, but then I had that inspiration to continue to encourage it, looking through, my aunt's career and seeing what that really looked like.
Yeah, it's fabulous to have someone, a mentor or someone that you really look up to.
Yes.
In terms of getting started. But tell us, what was the transition like for you from hairstyling as a cosmetologist into trichology?
Well, being licensed nearly 30 years, it was kind of different back then.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure, you would agree with me, being a part of the beauty industry for as long as you have as well. Back in that day, you really didn't worry about hair loss per se. It was more so we're trying to prevent from over processing the hair with chemicals. That's typically where the hair loss came from, when you over process and things like that. But fast forward to today's time, you could be the best hairstylist. You could choose superior product, yet you will still start seeing handfuls of hair in your trap, in the drain, in the shampoo bowl. And, when you're someone who prides themselves on taking care of your client's hair and making the right choices and things like that, yet you still see hair loss and you're left void of answers because you tried the basic stuff, like, what are you doing at home? Are you doing anything different? What medications have you taken? And, really honestly, when you ask that question, what medications have you taken? For me personally, I can only speak for myself. Whatever they would say, what medications they were taking, really, I didn't know what to do with that data after they shared it. It's like, oh yeah, well, I started taking blood pressure medicine. Okay, your hair is kind of dry, but I still don't have answers. Or, well, you know what? I did, have surgery recently. But I didn't really understand the connection. So once they told me or shared this personal information with me, I didn't know what to do with that to get them a solution. So the next thing you do is you say, oh, go see your dermatologist. Mm-hmm. And then when they come back to you with, this whole regimen that they have to do, can you put this on my scalp? Well, they told me to stop processing my hair with chemicals, and some of them weren't even being processed with chemicals. When you keep getting those kinds of answers, but it's not supporting you behind the chair and it's not making you look good to the client, and you're worried about the client leaving you because you don't have answers to take them to the next level, but you know you're not doing anything wrong, but you can't even protect yourself because you don't even know what to say beyond, well, I've used my best protein conditioner at my back bar and it's still coming out. So I really don't know what to do if the doctor can't help you. At that point, you know, it started becoming, how do I protect myself? How do I protect my reputation? Because when a client decides to leave you, no matter how good it has been throughout the history with them, when they leave you on a note because I'm losing my hair and I don't know if it's my hairstylist that's doing it or not, it doesn't matter how good the reputation was all of that time, because they're probably blaming something that you're doing because they know they're not doing anything different, right? So what's, you know, it's my hairstylist. So I got kind of tired of using my logic, if you will, because my logic wasn't getting me anywhere. And once I got fed up with the same old answers, no matter if they were chemicals or not, I decided that I had to do something about it if I wanted to protect my career and I wanted to protect my reputation. And so I went on a quest. I already knew trichology, but it was not as prevalent as it is now then. And there weren't a lot of people sharing that information. It was kind of like if they knew the best kept secret, they kept it that secret. And it was like this secret society that you didn't know how to break into and you didn't know where to go and get it. I don't know how many people's inboxes I went into trying to get this information and I couldn't get far. So after I found Rodney Barnett.
Okay.
And I took a 3-day course with Rodney Barnett. I flew to Atlanta and I was super excited about it. And I said, you know, I'm gonna check this out because I need to know more. I need to be more for my clients. And then in the process of going through that, I started losing my own hair. And it became not being more for my own clients, but I had to be more for myself. And there went the journey, and I just started pounding away and trying to figure out how to rescue my own hair. But then it really became a story about how to rescue my own health. And that's where I really, really dug deeply. And I became your hair loss advocate.
Awesome. Yeah, well, you shared a lot right there. And so I actually want to back you up before we get into your story, because I think your story has so much to share. But you said something that really stood out to me, you know, as a hairstylist of many years, and you're, you know, doing your consultations as we've been trained to do, and finding out the information that we need to find out, but then we don't know what to do with it. And, you know, and unfortunately, I've been able to learn some things about different types of medications and that type of thing. But you mentioned, you know, your client's on high blood pressure medicine. Maybe she has diabetes. She's not wearing any chemicals, but she's still having some hair loss. There may have been one other medication or treatment or something that you mentioned as well. But as a hairstylist, what should we be looking out for when we're asking these questions and we get the answer, so that we have some idea of how to guide our clients going forward?
I always, in my trainings, when I work with my peers, I always say, you know, that good old consultation form that we get, you know, from Cosmoprof or, you know, wherever we're getting it from, you know, and it's really short and it asks, you know, these really vague questions. I always say that it's not enough. And that we need to learn more of the correct questions to ask, but really understand why. And understanding the medications is really going to be a key factor, because understanding when your clients have taken antibiotics recently, understand when your clients have introduced a medication for the first time, understanding when they've come off of one, or understanding when they've changed one, is really going to be a big deal. And why is that? Because our body and our hair growth cycle works on a metabolic system. And what that means is, I'm not speaking, when we hear metabolic or metabolism, we always think in terms of digestive system, because that's the only time we really think of metabolism, is how well our body is breaking down food and how much weight we're gaining or losing when we think of that word. But our body works on a metabolic system. And what that means is, if we introduce any kind of substance, or if there is a lack of something within the body, it's going to shift the metabolic system, the metabolic rhythm. And whenever there's a shift, it interrupts. And so I always say that it's important for us to not think about what's happening to the client's hair in this moment, but understanding that there is a delayed clock when we're working with the body. Meaning whatever is happening right now, it's not happening right now. It happened as far back as 90 days ago, or it could have happened 4 weeks ago at minimum, because there's a delayed clock. So there's a momentum that the body has to catch up with, whether it's good or bad. So we have to wait for that delay. So if a person starts experiencing hair loss in your chair, it's not, what did you do yesterday? It's not, what are you doing today? It's, what did you do as far back as 90 days ago? Was there a shift? Did you shift your diet 90 days ago? Did you remove meat from your diet 90 days ago? Did you go on a keto diet 90 days ago? Did you go on an Atkins diet 90 days ago? Did you change medications 90 days ago? These are the things that will shift how your body processes things, and it will interrupt your hair growth cycle, and it will have your trap full of hair if you don't understand. So really understanding what questions to ask, but taking it a step further and knowing why you're asking that question, so you can expect to understand what to do when you get the response.
Right.
So just really understanding. I always encourage, even if everyone doesn't want to be a trichologist, and that's understood, but my mantra is trichology is the new cosmetology. Because of the pandemic that we're experiencing with hair loss, you have to identify your career to a certain degree, whether you take an introductory class to trichology, or if you go the full distance, because you need to shift your lenses in what you're looking at, because what we used to look at is not what we're looking at currently. So just getting a basic understanding so that you're in a position to triage and to network and connect with a trichologist, so that you can stop the hair fall or balding sooner, quicker, faster too, because time is hair follicles or time is hair. So understanding what medications do to the body is one big thing. So I always encourage you, the main medications, like you said, high blood pressure, diabetes, birth control, those are the top things that I would really go and study to see what kind of effects and why. Why is this person taking this, and what is it supposed to do in the body? What function is it simulating in the body, first of all, so you can see what's not happening, and then understand why this is interrupting the hair growth cycle.
Yeah, that's powerful, because I think it is information that we need to know. And that's something that we could get like in a 3-day type of training. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
What I do in my 3-day training, just understanding physiology as it correlates with the hair growth cycle, and then understanding how to do a microscopic hair and scalp analysis, so that you can look at, to me, microscopic hair and scalp analysis is just as important as doing a mammogram, and just as important as your, every 6-month dental hygiene checkup.
Okay. Wow. That's good to know, because it's like, I had no idea that should be something on our radar.
Yes.
And you mentioned a couple of other things. So let's just take a little dive into where we are today, which is COVID. And I've heard 3 aspects of COVID that we should kind of be on the lookout for. So the stress level contributing to hair loss, the actual people who've had the actual disease may be experiencing hair loss, and then the medications, the reactions from the medications that may have been given to treat the COVID as well. So what are your thoughts on what we should be looking out for, and what we can do to, kind of help our clients?
Okay. So those are all good questions and all good perspectives. So I just like to share my perspective on all of those things that you just said, starting with looking at those. The bigger picture is we are only focusing on the customers who've had COVID, right? Okay. But we have to really look at the ones who didn't have it, who are still experiencing hair loss. We understand, if you're a trichologist, you understand that because the body has gone into shock, the body, it fought this huge virus off, that there's going to be a shift in with the metabolism, and hair loss could be expected because it's a respiratory issue. It deals with cellular respiration and the way we process and absorb nutrients on so many levels. So because of that interruption, we can expect hair loss. But what we don't expect is hair loss in someone who has not been affected by the actual virus. So how is a person actually experiencing hair loss who has not had the virus? And why is it so important? It's important because of what you said, because of stress. But let's go a little deeper with that, because stress is a blanket statement. And I think we get hung up on that and we don't really understand in its fullness what stress is really doing to the body. And what stress does to the body is it basically shuts it down, especially if you're already deficient in certain things, which most people are. You know, if you're already deficient, you're making the body work harder. When we start stressing, we overwork our adrenal glands. But when we overwork our adrenal glands, they have a term called adrenal fatigue. But it's not really a disease of the adrenal cortex, like a Cushing's disease or something like that. So it's not really affecting the actual adrenal glands. It's actually affecting the brain, because the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland controls the adrenals. It signals and says, secrete cortisol, secrete epinephrine, you know, which is the adrenaline that keeps us, you know, responding to the fight or flight, if you will. So when you start looking at everything that has to happen to respond to the stress of, I'm a recluse now, and I really had problems before the onset of COVID, but I was able to get out in public and keep myself busy and keep myself distracted from what was really going on in my life. And now all of a sudden I've come to a standstill, and it's made me face my life head on. And I don't like my shadows. I don't like what I see. So now I'm stressed out because I have nowhere to hide from myself, if you will. Or I'm in this house and I have all of my kids and I have my husband, or I have, you know, all these other people living with me. I'm working from home. I have no break from my home life to be able to go and, you know, let off and, you know, decompress, if you will. A lot of things will cause the undue stress because of COVID, you know, or I'm trying my best not to get this virus and still trying to be as normal as I possibly can. So with all of those thought processes going on in the mind, we're triggering the hypothalamus to communicate with the pituitary gland. And when it communicates with the pituitary gland, it has to secrete hormones. It has to secrete adrenaline, and it has to secrete cortisol in order to keep up with it. In turn, it's telling the liver, I need you to go and I need you to secrete all of the stored up sugar so that it can give the body energy to be able to respond to this crisis that's happening in the mind. That's really not a physical threat, but our brain keeps saying it's a threat. So the body has to respond to it. And then the pancreas then has to release insulin in order for the sugar to be used in the bloodstream and the cells to absorb. When we keep the pedal to the metal on the adrenals like that, and all of these other body systems are involved, what that's saying is the body is staying ramped up. Now we're secreting more energy than probably the nutrients that we're able to absorb, because when we're under a lot of stress, it stops our body from being able to absorb via the gastrointestinal system. The esophagus starts shutting down. So the way we're able to metabolize food is different because of the stress. The brain and the stomach operate in symbiosis. They communicate with one another. And so it's a mind-body connection, if you will. And so we're already not getting enough nutrients. And then we're telling the body to keep on pushing out energy that's not being restored as a result of our stress factor with our esophagus and our gastrointestinal system. So we start becoming more deficient in things that we were probably already deficient in. And then our body is no longer in homeostasis due to the undue stress. And wherever your weaknesses are in those body systems is where the stress hits the most and what starts malfunctioning. And as a result, the hair is not getting any nutrients because it's a non-essential factor. It's a non-essential tissue, and everything needs to go to your life-giving organs. So then we start seeing telogen effluvium, which is excessive hair loss throughout the scalp, or depending on what body systems are affected the most, if it's your endocrine system, because this is where our adrenal system, our adrenal glands live, we may start seeing some kind of hormonal imbalance type of hair loss. So it just depends, because we're made equally, but we respond to things differently, the environment, you know, stress and all of that. So then it breeds hair loss. So now that I've said 10 mouthfuls, you know, of everything I just let off on you, people start having hair loss. And then they come into us and we don't have a trained eye as a hairstylist, you know, just as I was years ago, without that trained eye. And we're thinking, oh, you know, I have the best thing. It'll stop this hair shed. I'm going to use my best thing at the back bar. And when it doesn't work, we have no more answers. Yet we still don't have any explanation as to why their hair is coming out, other than, you know, COVID's probably just got you stressed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But that's not a viable answer, because it's not a viable solution. So I just like to always tell people, go deeper, because it requires for us to go deeper. Your clients need more and they deserve more, and so do you. Looking at someone who has COVID as a result of it being a respiratory situation, cellular respiration, again, the way the body is able to break down foods that we eat, extracting the glucose first and being able to use it as energy. We're not able to do that when our airway is being obstructed. So we're not going to get everything we need because we're not getting adequate oxygen to begin with. So later on, it's probably going to bring about hair loss, if you will. And then considering pre-existing conditions that were there that have probably been exacerbated as a result of them having COVID. Because if they were healthy and their immune system was strong, they would probably have been able to fight off COVID. But so there are probably some pre-existing conditions there, you know, in the first place. So just looking at all of those factors, two different stresses in the body, because the body has had to fight off the virus. So it's probably fatigue and it needs to be replenished and rebooted. And then the person who has stress definitely needs to replenish and reboot. But two different kinds of protocols, because the other person with the stress probably needs to do some kind of stress management as well, counseling and things like that to help them balance and to get some things under control. But at the same time, it's all relevant because it all results in hair loss.
Wow. Yeah, well, you really broke it down for us. So it's like, I hope, you know, it's like if anyone's listening and they're like, what did she say? You know, like push rewind and, you know, like listen to it little by little, because you really broke down how all the different systems kind of work together. And that's one of the things that sometimes with beauty school gets kind of overlooked or pushed to the side. I read someone recently who was saying, like, I don't even understand why hairstylists have to learn about, you know, physiology and, you know, the anatomy and that type of thing. But it's like the thing we love to create on is attached, you know. It's integral and integrated with every other system in the body. And so understanding the body helps you be able to better help your clients. And so I love when you said go deeper. So that's phenomenal. So I've got another, you know, kind of backtrack.
Okay.
Talked about your clients, you know, sending your clients to the dermatologist. And as a hairstylist, it's like we've probably, you know, done that at some point in time. I know before I had a relationship with a great dermatologist, I had, you know, I sent a lot of people to dermatologists, or maybe they were seeing someone and they bring in kind of the same shampoo that never seemed to work. And then they bring in, or say they said, you know, I have to apply this wet liquid to my hair every morning. And Black women, wet liquid, no. It's like, well, that's going to sit on the dresser and collect dust, you know. So what are your thoughts with, you know, you've done some work with connecting with dermatologists and training them, and what should we look for when we're trying to create a relationship with a dermatologist so that we can refer our clients to someone, you know, reliable, where they're going to get the support that they need?
I always like to say that we're on the front line. So we see it all first. And I feel like when we know more, we can educate our clients more, because before I became educated, I just said, go to the dermatologist, talk to them about it. It was kind of like my way of doing this, releasing myself of responsibility and saying, you got to go see them because this is above me, kind of thing. Right. And so I'm no longer in that space, and I no longer feel that way, because I feel the more educated we become as beauty pros, the more we can educate our clients, because the clients are going into either their primary care physician or their dermatologist having a hair loss conversation. Mm-hmm. What does that mean, Kai? Having a hair loss conversation. The dermatologist, although they are the experts in hair, skin, and nails, for some reason, about 90% of my customers have already gone that route, and they, to no avail, still they don't have any results still. Mm-hmm. So what is wrong? Where is the link being broken? And how can I become the solution to help mend that link? And so here it is in short. Understanding how physiology connects with the hair growth cycle, understanding the language that the body is speaking. And that means, when I say understanding the language the body is speaking, that means understanding symptomatic language, because that is the body's method of speaking. So my job as a trichologist is to interpret that language that the body is speaking, to understand what body systems are speaking. When I can give my client a better understanding as to what her body is saying to her, then that means I'm giving her power to go and advocate for herself in the dermatologist's office or the physician's office. So it's not really what you should look for in a dermatologist, because they're all trained to do the same thing. They're all trained to prescribe you something at the end, and none of them are really giving you a viable solution other than a prescription at the time that they see you and saying, hey, this is what it is. And that is the breakdown, because you've given me a prescription, which means that I have to be a slave to this in order to keep my hair on my head. But it's kind of working against me in my image when I have to show up to work every day and I'm going to be looking a mess with the options that you've given me. So I'm really probably not going to follow this protocol because it's not working for me in my lifestyle. It's not conducive for my situation. So Kai Smith wants to know, how can I correct this approach? And you can correct that approach by having a vast understanding of what's happening with you in your body. And that is why I train so many of my peers on a deeper level to be able to interpret or crack the code on what the body is speaking, so that while we have them in the chair, we can say, you know what, Miss Wright, your hair is coming out because you are a diabetic. And although you're taking your diabetic medicine, whether it's a metformin or whether you're on insulin base, there's still some imbalances there. Because if there were no imbalances, you wouldn't be getting the symptom. Because see, hair loss is a symptom. Right. Hair loss is not a diagnosis. Hair loss is a symptom to something that needs to be diagnosed. Right? So we don't want to stop there. So Miss Wright, I'm just letting you know that you're not balanced in your body still, even though you're on the medication. So this is why you're still having this symptom of hair loss. So we need to understand where the imbalances are. So what symptoms are you having? And then, okay, you're still kind of tired during the day. Oh, you're on metformin, Miss Wright. So you're having diarrhea taking the metformin. So that means that you're probably not metabolizing well. You're probably not absorbing the nutrients from the food that you're eating, because your body is metabolizing too fast to absorb it. It's running through you before you can get benefit from the things that you're eating. So this is not allowing you to absorb adequate nutrients to keep your body balanced, which is causing you to have a diffuse kind of hair loss, and you're starting to see your density reducing. So you probably want to go to your doctor and ask them these questions, so that we can see if they need to change your medicine. But if they're working with me as their hair loss advocate, then I'm going to look at their blood work and say, you know what, your vitamin D is low. Mm-hmm. Your vitamin D is low, which is also posing as a problem with your insulin sensitivity and how you're producing and using insulin because you have low vitamin D. Mm-hmm. So let me look at your levels. Well, your vitamin D is a 20, Miss Wright. We need to get your vitamin D to at least a 70 so that your immune system can be a little bit stronger. And I know your doctor is telling you that it's okay, but it's not okay for your hair. Right. So this is why you're losing hair, because you need more nutrients for your hair to get some, because your body is using all of this 20. So you need more international units. So you want to talk to your doctor, about that. And let's look at your diet and see what that diet is looking like. Because I'm also looking here and you're telling me that you're having the diarrhea. So it's letting me know that there's some gastrointestinal issues going on, which is causing you not to even absorb. So even if you take the 50,000 IUs, international units that the doctor may prescribe you, you're still likely not to be able to absorb it. So that's going to be a problem. We need to get your gastrointestinal system in balance. So here's some things that you can go and do, but also ask your doctor about that. How powerful is that? That conversation to go back to the doctor. So as a trichologist, you're working as a liaison. You're not thinking that you're a doctor as a paramedical professional. We know our boundaries. Most should know the boundaries. So as a trichologist, I teach my peers to educate their clients who are sitting in their chair, because education is power. You're empowering them to advocate for themselves. And at the same time, you're increasing that doctor's visit with the customer so that as that patient, she can come out with what she needs because she's justifying how she feels. She's changed that conversation from a hair loss conversation to a physiology conversation that the doctor can understand. Doctor doesn't understand the hair loss conversation. Doctor is saying, Miss Wright, you don't need your hair to live. Everything is fine. But when you go in there and you flip it to a symptomatic conversation about your physiology, they understand that. They can run tests. We can open up this window to see the possibilities of what's going on. So that is the job of a trichologist, to enhance that visit. So to answer your question, it's not what do you look for in a dermatologist? It's what do you look for in a hairstylist, so that the hairstylist, because the conversation that you're going to have, the more comfortable conversation is taking place in that styling chair. So if the education needs to start there so that we can get the doctors to understand what our clients are trying to say.
Yeah. Anybody else want to just say yes? Yeah, that was wonderful, because I think that is the challenge. I think for a lot of doctors is like like you're saying, they don't really understand the hair loss, and the hair loss is actually a symptom.
And they don't have time, Mickey.
Right.
They don't have time in their office because it's a quota that they're trying to meet, unfortunately. And it's a quota. We have the time. Right. So we get all of that. They sit on our couch. Our chair is their couch anyway. So the more we're educated, the more we can be on the front line empowering our clients to better health.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely love that. That is wonderful. And one of the things that you shared just made me think about a lot of things that are going on with our scalps. So we're not just seeing, hair loss come in, but on Facebook, I've been in some of the groups and stuff, and I've just been seeing a lot of people, almost kind of midway through a process, taking a picture of a client's scalp and saying, do you guys know what this is? And you talked about staying in our lane. It's like, we're not, able to diagnose. We're not licensed to diagnose, nor should we be diagnosing. But it's like, if you should be doing a hair and scalp analysis before you begin a service. And if you see anything that is not normal scalp, which we look at every day, then that person should be referred to a medical professional to get a diagnosis and get treated before we're working on them and potentially endangering ourselves, our clients, our colleagues, or what have you. So do you have any suggestions just to enhance that conversation? Because I think there's so many, like you're saying, get educated as hairstylists, but it's like, I think we're even forgetting just the basics of, just looking at the hair and scalp before we start any service.
Absolutely. What I always say is being able to identify, hence the reason why I have Identifying Hair Loss Behind the Chair as a 3-day introductory course to trichology. But it's a space where you learn how to identify characteristics of things, characteristics of seborrheic dermatitis, characteristics of, psoriasis, characteristics of real true dandruff. And I say true dandruff because we want to classify everything as dandruff when it really can be a scalp disorder, if you will.
Mhm.
And so being able to classify those things and understanding the characteristics of those things, and being able to talk to your clients about some things that could potentially be going on internally with them, and it's presenting on their scalp as well. And then also understanding the legality of things so that you can protect yourself. So it's about a language that you speak, understanding the legalities in which you can say, and suggesting and recommending things, for people. So there are certain treatments that you can do in the salon to help, increase scalp hygiene, because a lot of what we're seeing on our clients is because they don't have proper hygiene. Doing a hair and scalp analysis during a consultation, but charging for that process, because I've always been one that felt like a hair consultation before, or an interview before we take on a new client, is always going to help you determine if you're a good fit, if you can offer them what they need, and seeing, the full picture of things. So at that time, performing a microscopic hair analysis to do that, if you understand how to use the equipment to be able to detect what's going on. There's certain things that you can look at and say, there's no follicular activity here. You have a lot of follicular activity here, but there's a lot of buildup that's impeding hair growth here. I see a lot of yellow scales going on your scalp, or I see a lot of grayish scales going on your scalp, or I see dryness on your scalp. But understanding what those characteristics are, and what category that falls into, you can still discuss these things with your client in a legal manner when you understand what language to speak to them, when you understand your lane and you're not trying to replace. And then there is a point when it needs to be escalated for a diagnosis if you're not really understanding what's happening on that scalp. Because as a trichologist, we are trained to understand what's happening at that level. So if you do understand, then there's certain things that you can do within reason that are legal for you to do without you putting yourself in jeopardy, or without you putting the client in harm's way. But if it reaches a point where, what you've done is not enough, then there is a point where the customer needs to seek dermatological support for observation and or biopsy to get a diagnosis, if you will, at that point. And I think as a trained trichologist, we all know when we've reached that point to say, respectfully, this is above me, and I think you should go and see a dermatologist. I have customers that I work with, or when I do my pre-screening assessment calls, and I hear them and their body is just full of different ailments and illnesses. If I feel like it's too much and I'm going to get myself tangled in a web, I will respectfully bow out and say, you know what? You've got a lot going on, and I respect you and your health, and I don't want to touch that. So I advise you to go and do X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, that definitely helps, I think, with kind of being able to stay in our lane, being able to help treat what we can treat,
Mm-hmm.
with education and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely, I think when we're seeing scalps and things are going on, that we need to make sure that we're aware of it, one, and that we address it with the client, and just making sure that they're getting the best care as possible. And especially right now, making sure that we're taking care of ourselves as well.
And I think that comes with integrity.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that if a person is really operating with integrity, being ethical, and really out of care and concern for the client, I think the person with the trained eye, with the right education and training, they will know when to respectfully bow out of something and say, you really need additional support. And that is something that I always caution the prospects that haven't decided to work with me yet. I always tell them, this is what I do. This is the process. At any time that I look at something and my eyebrow is raised and I feel you need additional support, we will connect with the correct medical professional or specialist, and I will educate you on the questions that you should be asking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're making me think. It's like I had a lady that came in wanting, a hair color retouch. And, when I opened up her scalp, it's like there's all kinds of, kind of open, semi-open type of,
Nice.
things going on there. And she was just very insistent. It's like, no, if you just use this kind of such and such, you'll be able to do fine and such and such and such. And I could see someone, who wasn't, as experienced, or I guess you could say unintimidatable.
Yeah.
I was. It's like, there's no way I can do your hair until you go to see a doctor. And she's like, oh, well, I'll just go, somewhere else. And it's like, and maybe she could get in, but it's like, it's going to be detrimental. There's no way her scalp would actually take that service well. And there's obviously something going on. And so I think sometimes it's not only knowing when to bow out, but holding your ground to bow out, because the clients may be demanding, it's like, oh, but no, I have to go so-and-so and I have to get my color today. It's like, nope.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And it's funny that you would say that. I want to share this if it's okay.
Sure.
That I served as an expert witness as a trichologist on a case. And I served in support of the defense, which was for the hairstylist.
Okay.
And I was hired as a trichologist to examine what happened to the client's scalp. And it was a weave situation. And this person had cicatricial hair loss as a result of this weave application. And so what I was to determine is if this was actually possible, because what happened was the person developed a fungus underneath the weave, and she didn't know it was there. And as a result of leaving it in too long, her hair came out permanently. And so when I looked at it, I didn't think that the hairstylist was negligent, simply because of how the young lady, her defense was saying that, it hurt when she put it in. It was pulling too tight when she put it in and I had a headache. Well, why did you keep it up for 3 months if it was that painful? You didn't say anything at that time and you kept it up, because she was trying to say that her hair had been pulled too tight and this is why she lost her hair. But in fact, she was actually a college student who had gotten her hair done while she was at home and then went to North Carolina to go back to school. And she was an athlete and she was sweating profusely and, wetting the weave and not taking care of it. And that fungus started growing under there, but she wanted to blame the hairstylist to say that she was negligent and did all of this. So I had to go in and look at that. But sometimes we have to, we can't force something, and we have to use our better judgment. And I like to think, in my own personal experience, that I kind of know when it's not okay. That spirit starts speaking to me saying, don't touch that. And in my younger years, I defied it. And every time I went against it, it came back to bite me every time. So I've learned that, to go into court and to say, well, they said that it was okay and she told me to do it. You hold the license as the professional, and you must know, whether it's a license or a certification, you must know when to heed and not do something, because the judge is not going to work in your favor because you didn't know something, because you are the professional.
Right. Wow. Powerful story. So thank you for sharing that, because it's like, we definitely do need to, stand in knowledge, basically. Yes. Yeah. And document as much as possible. I'll throw that in there. And so tell us about your own experience. You said you were kind of in the middle of your trichology training when you started experiencing hair loss. So tell us about, what did that actually look like for you? And then what was your journey like?
Well, it started off with, I didn't know it was there. Of course, it was in the back of my head, in the nape area. And I was getting a weave put in. And at that time, I was getting my weaves put in quite frequently. Once a month, I was getting them, redone over. And so I knew that the previous month it wasn't there because she didn't say anything to me. And then the next month it was there. And she's like, girl, you got a bald spot in the back of your head? And I'm like, take a picture of it. So she took a picture of it and she showed me, and it was like this big, clean, just like the back of my hand. It was alopecia areata, which is something that we can identify off the top of our head. It's like the most common thing. Traction and alopecia areata are the two things that I don't care. The untrained eye knows what that is, right? And so with that, I'm like, oh my God, well, like, how did that happen? And then all of a sudden, you would think that because I'm this hairstylist, like I'm supposed to have this superpower that's supposed to be unleashed, and like I'm supposed to automatically know what to do. And it was like I dummied up just like a client, like I became a client, and I'm like, well, I don't know what to do. So to be honest, at the beginning, I ignored it. I'm like, this is gonna grow back. How many times? Have we ignored something thinking that it's going to correct itself if we just leave it alone? And so I ignored it. Well, the thing started taking on a life of its own. It started growing. And you know how we do. We go and we look in the mirror and we get, because it's in an odd place that I can't see, right? So I have the mirror and I'm sitting up on the vanity and I'm trying to position myself to look, and I'm trying to take pictures back there myself, because I'm trying to manage it without managing it, right? I'm trying to how fast it's growing. And I'm like, okay, this thing is getting bigger. Like, I don't know what to do. I really don't know what to do. So I decided, well, I'm going to do what I tell my clients to do. I'm going to the dermatologist, right?
Right.
I went. And I knew the dermatologist, he was an African-American dermatologist. I trusted him, I still trust him, right? And so, in fact, being located in Los Angeles is who I send my clients to when I need them to get a biopsy. I'll send them over there to him, right? And so he's like, well, Kai, yeah, you have alopecia areata. I'm just going to give you these cortisone injections. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm like, let's just make it grow back, because I'm still green. I don't know any better. So I'm like, okay. So he's injecting me and I'm getting growth in the areas where I'm being injected, but I'm still losing hair in other areas that's not being injected. And so I'm like, okay, doctor, like, I don't know, like, what's going on here, but it's working in these areas, but something's still not right. And so I'm still trying to figure out, like, well, what the heck is going on? Like, I'm getting what I think is supposed to work, and it's not working.
Right.
And so scared, and I'm trying to figure out, well, what am I supposed to do next? Because, like, I'm all fresh out now. I don't know what to do. And so I went on this quest to my primary care physician, because I'm digging and I don't know where to go. So every single symptom in my body that I thought was something, even if I made it up because it only happened one time, like I'm running all this stuff down, and I'm just like, because we got to figure out, because something's not right. But I still don't really know, like, there's something wrong in my body. I don't know that. I'm just reaching and I'm grabbing at straws, however I can figure it out. Lo and behold, she was an African-American doctor too. Mm-hmm. And she really listened to me. Mm-hmm. And she ran all of these tests because it was justified with me going in speaking a symptomatic language. I didn't go in saying hair loss, hair loss, hair loss. I went in and this is hurting and I feel dizzy over here and I feel like this. So I'm just thinking of whatever I feel. It might only be one time, but if I felt it, I'm going to tell you today. Right? Okay. So as telling her all of these things, she starts running all of these tests. And I remember like it was yesterday. I picked up my phone. I picked up my phone and she says, Ms. Smith? And I said, yes. It was an unknown number because that's typically what they call you from. And I said, yes. She says, you need to make an appointment to see the rheumatologist because your anti-nuclear antibody test came back really high. And this is how I'm looking.
Right.
And I'm like, well, what does that mean?
Exactly.
And she's like, you could possibly have an autoimmune disease. And I'm just like, I don't even know how to react at that point because right. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, when did this happen? And then the things that I'm saying is, I never get colds. My immune system is strong. I don't even know what this is about. And so then I start researching because I'm like scared. And I'm like, I can't I don't want to take immunosuppressants. I work with the public. I can't suppress my immune system. Everybody that I knew that had an autoimmune disease, they were on prednisone, they had blown up, they were having other issues. And so I was scared to death because I was like, this cannot be my story. This cannot be my story. And so after doing some research, I remember falling asleep, and I cried myself to sleep, first of all, because I was so afraid. But as I was crying, I was searching on the internet, and I was trying to figure out, what do they do to treat autoimmune, Western medicine, conventionally, and what do they do in Eastern medicine, alternatively. And so as I was researching, I kept coming back with the same things, that it's really driven by what you eat. It's really driven by what you put in your body. Everybody who has turned the curve and who has gotten some successful results, they started shifting in how they eat if they didn't want to do the conventional method. And so I didn't want to do the conventional method because I saw the results of that with clients and family members and all of that. So basically what I did is, before, it took about 3 months, because that was how backed up the rheumatologist was. It took about 3 months for me to get that appointment to see the rheumatologist. But in the process, I wasn't waiting. I wasn't going to be a sitting duck because I'm scared and my hair is still coming out, right? So I started implementing all of these things, and I connected with the naturopaths to really help me build a protocol. And by the time I got the appointment and they did more testing, they were like, we're not finding anything. So I had started shifting the momentum because it had taken me 3 months to even get the appointment, and my body had started shifting and turning the curve. But what happens is, they were never able to diagnose me with an autoimmune disease because I had already started shifting the trajectory and started healing, my body by what I was putting in it. But I'll tell you this, that I did have another bout. Whenever I stopped doing what I'm supposed to be doing, then you better know that it'll come back, because it's a lifestyle. Just as with anything, you can either have a lifestyle of taking medications, or you can have a lifestyle of putting on the tip of your fork the things that are going to create life. And because I shifted in my lifestyle, I'm not perfect. I'm a foodie. I still love to eat, but I know that there's a limit that I have to stay within in order to keep myself in a good area, so that my body is not overcome by inflammation, just as anybody else's body, because it's going to react to that. So basically, it was autoimmunity. My body was giving off an immune response as a result of my immune system being inundated from toxins and stuff. And as a hairstylist, we touch so many chemicals, we inhale so much burn off of smoke, and we're not eating properly and taking the right breaks, and just all of these other things. And just that lifestyle just ended up catching up to me at some point. So being healthy, knowing what to put on the tip of the fork, is what keeps the hair loss at bay.
Right. And so that is a pretty amazing story, first off. And it's like, I know just from, what you shared, just, the emotions, the emotional range of what happens, when you get the call, and it's like, what does that even mean? And where do I start? And even the journey, with the, where do you start? I think that's one of the first things that happens, if you have something to come up physically. It's like, okay, I don't even know what kind of doctor to call. I don't know, what to look up on the internet, what do I even type in? And so, it's like, what would you, suggest? It's like, maybe because, when people sit in our chairs, they tell us everything. If we have a client that comes in and they're kind of in that space, what suggestions would you make,
in the space of, if I see alopecia areata, something like that, it lets me know that the body is having an immune response. It doesn't always mean that they have an autoimmune disease, so to speak, but that the body is having some kind of immune response to something that's going on, it's reacting. So I would start probing them about what's happening with them in their health. I would start probing them about what kind of diet they have, what kind of effect do they feel after they're eating, to see if they're having some kind of allergy that they don't consider an allergy, because a lot of times if we're not breaking out into hives or having some kind of external experience, we don't relate that to an allergy. So, but the immune system will relate it as an allergy by the way it responds to the body. And in turn, it can respond as hair loss, if you will, depending on what's really causing it, what's triggering it, and how inundated the gastrointestinal system is, which will then inundate the immune system. So I would really probe them about their gastrointestinal system, simply because the gastrointestinal system houses the immune system. Approximately 70 to 80% of it lives there. And so if a person is having gastrointestinal issues, that they might say, oh, I just have a little acid reflux here and there. Oh, I just have a little flatulence here and there. Oh, I poop probably 3 times a week. Or I have a little bout with diarrhea. These are all the questions that you're asking a person. Oh, when I go to the dentist, I have to get deep tissue cleaning all the time. I'm having a lot of issues with my teeth. These are all, or I have a lot of yeast infections or bouts with bacteria vaginosis, which they're probably not going to share with you in the chair about that piece. But those are things that you get more intimate details about when you are consulting with them one-on-one in a hair loss conversation. But for that hairstyling chair, you want to ask the other questions up until I got to yeast and bacteria vaginosis, because they will probably openly share that with you. Or if they have some kind of IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, things like that, that could be prompting something to cause the body to stress out even more. It can present as alopecia areata on the scalp and not necessarily have to be an autoimmune disease. So I would start there, and then having them to correct their diet, having them to get on an anti-inflammatory diet. But at any rate, there needs to be a more in-depth consultation. But just as a starter for the novice hairstylist that doesn't know anything about trichology, really digging into their gastrointestinal system, because that's going to determine whether or not they're absorbing based on the reactions that's happening when they eat.
Okay. Yeah, that's really helpful. And like you said, I've been in the industry a long time. I know you have. Originally, it's like we would always associate that with stress. And now, it's like the science is like kind of catching up, I guess, and saying that, there is some type of autoimmune response. Like you say, it may not be a disorder or what have you, but is the stress that we were connecting it with still one of the causes of that? Or is that known, or is that something that we should, talk to our clients about as well? Because that's definitely one of the conversations we would have.
I think that it's relevant. Because you want to know what kind of stress are they under, because stress causes a myriad of things to happen on a physiological level. So I don't think that an untrained hairstylist would be equipped to have that conversation from that perspective, to say, well, your stress is causing this body system to do this, and that's why this is showing up on your scalp. That's really more so of an elevated conversation for the specialist, if you will. No different than if when I went to my primary care physician and she did the testing, and then she recognized that what was going on with me was above her, and she said, now you need to see the rheumatologist. It's the same thing with a hairstylist, that once you look at everything and you ask the basic questions about gastrointestinal and all of those things, when you say stress, it's more so blanket, and that still leaves the client trying to figure out how to really apply that stress statement to this. I can't stop stressing. So what you want me to do? I'm just supposed to have hair loss. Now you told me it's stress. So, I can't stop stressing. I just had this baby and I still got to go to work and I'm tired and I'm there. So people feel like they don't have control over changing things in their life. So just to tell them that they're stressed out, well, I know that because I live my life. What do I need to do to fix this? And there are things that you can implement to take the stress off, adaptogens and things like that can help the body adjust. But that's a higher level conversation. And if you want to be able to participate in that conversation, then you need to level up and get certified for that.
Okay. Okay. Well, that is great information, and it's like we've had different people saying hello. Great information. Break it down. Cynthia Davenport is here saying great info. Nicola Forbes. Hi, Nicola. Um, yes, break it on down. Ava Freeman says perfectly said. And Nicola was saying the kids are affected as
Yeah.
well. So there's really some great things. Samantha Dixon Slaughter is in the house, says good night. She's sorry she's late. It's like, we're glad you're here. Just catch it on the replay. And then we have Teresa Rivers asking, do you mentor other trichologists? So can you tell us a little bit about, what you offer and how, a hairstylist who does want to take it to that next level can do that?
Absolutely. That's a great question. And thank you for asking. And I'm glad that you're finding value in what I'm sharing and wanting to connect further beyond this interview. So thank you for that. As far as mentorship, I do offer coaching. It just depends on the capacity that you want to work with me. I offer business coaching on helping you to build your trichology business, helping you to become the authority in the digital space with your business so that you can create an audience, so that you can connect with the people that you are destined to connect with, and utilizing your purpose in trichology to make a shift and impact. And I also train trichologists on the practical pieces by going through, if you're already certified, there's a prerequisite. If you're already certified through an organization, through a full training, not a 3-day training or anything like that, but the full certification course, then yes, there is a 90-day fast track to trichology program that I put you through, where we go back over the basics of physiology because it's a fast track. And then I take you through my proprietary information of all the things that I had to learn outside of a basic foundation for trichology that has allowed me to be the authority that I am today. I share that with you. I teach you how to build powerful protocols by understanding how to look at the body systems in a chronological order or a clockwise manner to build a protocol, because that is really most important. We might see multiple types of hair loss on the client's head because it's not uncommon to have more than one type of hair loss on your head. So if you have a client that has telogen effluvium on the scalp, you have a client that also on that same scalp in the frontal hairline has a hormonal type of hair loss, then do I treat all of that at one time, or how do I build a protocol to get the most effective treatment without overwhelming the body? How do you do that? Well, if you want to learn that, I teach you that after being certified, because it's been my experience, as it has a lot of my peers, that once we complete a trichology certification, we are full of knowledge. We are like an encyclopedia, but we lack implementation skills. We don't know how to take that information that we've learned and actually use it on a person to get results. So that is what I help you to do when you decide to partner with me. And I just, because we use the word mentor, and when I think of mentor, I think of taking someone under my wing and pouring everything that I have into them. So I call it coaching because it is a paid program where you can partner with me to do all of those things. So I'll share my information with Mickey. And if you want to connect on a deeper level, I'm more than happy to interview you to see if we're a good fit for one another and if you want to move forward.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds spectacular. And do you offer a 3-day something where hairstylists could come and learn that information? Is that something that you offer as well, or no?
Yes, I offer a 3-day certification program, which is called ID Hair Loss Behind the Chair.
Okay.
And in ID Hair Loss Behind the Chair, it's a 3-day trichological intensive where I'm taking you through all of the physiological processes so that you can see how this correlates with hair growth or hair loss, if you will. And then we're looking at the scalp so that you can identify different characteristics of hair loss and scalp disorders so that you know what you're looking at. But it's more of an introduction, but it has supported trichologists who already have a certification when they're trying to figure out how to use what they already know.
Okay.
And our next class is June 6th through the 8th, and we're running everything virtually for the remainder of 2021. So if you want to enroll, I can share that information also with Mickey.
Okay. And is there a good place for them to contact you?
Yes, I can. You want me to type it in the chat, or You can go to justaskkai@gmail.com or any one of my social media platforms. You can go to Kai Smith on Facebook, KY Smith, or you can go to Your Hair Loss Advocate on IG and send me a private message.
Okay, I hope I did that correctly. Let's see. Justaskkai@gmail.com.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, we got that. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for everything you shared. I mean, I'm sure some people feel like a fire hose just came at them. But press the rewind button, watch this, listen to it, just kind of take one little piece at a time, because it's like what you shared is so wise as well as informed. And it's like, it really helps to make us better hairstylists to be able to, like you say, be on those front lines. And we've got another lovely comment here. I think it's Ratasha. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Kellum says, invaluable information. Our clients can benefit from us going deeper. Thank you, Miss Mickey and Miss Kai. Thank you so much for being here, and so glad this is beneficial for you. Yeah, that's wonderful to hear. So tell us, what would you say was the best advice that you've received, whether personally or professionally, something you could share with everyone watching?
For me, the best advice is, and I know it sounds cliche, but I will go a little bit deeper after I say it and why it was the best advice. Trusting the process. Trusting the process. And enjoy the art of becoming. What does that even mean? I mean, before you have a lot of life experiences, you're just like, that's not serving me right now, because I don't even, I'm trying to figure this out. That's not serving me right now. But as a seasoned, woman, and as a seasoned entrepreneur, it sounds so little, but it says so much, because we are oftentimes so busy trying to get to the destination that we don't understand that we have to become who we need to be. And that's why we're going through the process before we can arrive, at that destination and handle what we're asking for. And so when we stay in that valley and we fight the valley, and our perspective is focused on the wrong thing. Why is me, victim, God, why are you doing this? Instead of looking at it and saying, he's developing me. I'm being dipped in the fire. This is an opportunity for me to grow. He's making me show myself approved for that thing that I've been asking for. So perspective is everything. So trust the process and enjoy the art of becoming, because you're in a rush to get to the end of your destiny. And when you get to the end of your destiny, you should have fulfilled the dash between your birthday and the end date. And you want to make sure that you're eulogized right and that you made an impact on this world instead of rushing to the end.
Wow, powerful. It's like, I love it. So it's like, I hope that, like you say, someone who may not be as seasoned really takes a moment to say, hey, wait a minute. What you said, that thing.
Growth is painful. Growth is very painful, and growth is frustrating. And when we are so busy being frustrated, instead of looking at it as an opportunity to become or to be introduced to our higher selves, we miss it, and we spend more time in the valley than we need to.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the valley. It just makes me think of Iyanla Vanzant saying how we have the valley times or valley moments so that we won't be up on the mountaintop acting a fool. So
right, you want to get up there and enjoy grapes and eat the grapes, but you gotta know how to till the crops in the meantime to bear those nice grapes when you get to the mountaintop.
Yes. Absolutely. So I definitely appreciate you so much. I appreciate what you're doing in the world, the work that you're doing on a daily basis with helping, women and men and children to be more empowered about, what's going on with their body, how to talk to, the medical professionals in a way that they really get it so they can be helped, because that's, all of the things you mentioned are so key. And, we appreciate you sharing your story, which I know, takes a certain level of vulnerability. So, but we appreciate it. And also for the work you're doing for hairstylists. It's like, we need, like you say, to go deeper. And
Yeah.
so we appreciate you bringing this to us so that we can see that it's like, oh, wow. It's like, you know, in order for me to be my best and be most effective to the clients that I'm working on, you know, whether they're getting weave services, whether they're, you know, have been, you know, young, old, what have you. It's like we're seeing this spreading across the board, and we need to all be aware and informed. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. It's like we've got a couple comments here, and then we'll kind of start to wrap everything up. But Natalie McNeil says, great information. Thank you, ladies. Trying to get the clients to trust the process and be patient can be challenging at times too. Absolutely. We all want, you know, the microwave fix. And it didn't start, like she said, it didn't start today. It's not going to be fixed today. We've got 30 years.
So, if you don't mind my saying,
Sure.
when I first became a trichologist, I wanted to heal the world because I had something, and I knew I was the solution, and I was eager, and I was open, and I was ready, and I wanted to shove it down everyone's mouth because I had something that I knew that they needed. So what we have to understand is a person has to be ready for their healing, and that you're just the conduit. You're the conveyor of the information. And when you share it, and when they're ready for it, they will grab onto it. And when they're not ready, we have to be willing to accept that they're not ready, and let them be who they're going to be. But it doesn't devalue us, and we shouldn't use any extra energy trying to make someone receive what we have.
Absolutely. Well said. Well said. Yeah, it's like definitely, and we got I think a wow on that one from Samantha Dixon Slaughter. But yes, it's like we do have to honor where people are, and you know, share what we can share to help them. But people have to want the help first. So definitely.
And a lot of times we take it. I know at first for me, when I was sharing something, and my whole perspective was, but you're losing your hair, and I'm telling you that I can help you, and what you've been doing hasn't been working, so how could you not want this? And it's like you just want to shake them, and you know, into awareness. And in that, because we have something that we know works, sometimes if we don't have a certain level of healing with our own insecurities when we're trying to help people, when they say no to us, maybe not with their mouth, but with their actions, we take it as rejection. And so a lot of times when we get into a space of being a solution, we definitely have to heal certain parts of us in order to be able to serve on that level, to understand how to accept people right where they are, and to leave them be in that space. And it's okay. It doesn't mean that you don't want to help them. It means you recognize they're not ready for the help that you have.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. That's wisdom speaking, guys. It's like, don't take it personal because it really is them making their own decisions, which have absolutely nothing to do with you.
Absolutely. It doesn't devalue you.
Absolutely not. And Yvonne Lott, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, says, yes, great information. Thanks. And Natalie McNeil says, well stated. Thanks. And so I want to thank you guys for being here. We appreciate you being here live. If you're watching the replay, I appreciate you with that as well. And want to just let you know, it's like with what's coming up. If you have missed any of the previous Beauty Superstars Talk interviews, it's like this is our fourth of 4 interviews on hair loss, and they were all very powerful. So it's like if you've missed any of those or any of our previous series, you can catch up on beautysuperstars.com and on YouTube at Mickey Wright, which is Miki, just 1K, guys, and Wright, WRIGHT. And you can also listen to the podcast, which we're in the process of kind of getting more on there, but there's some really great ones already on Apple or iTunes, Spotify, anywhere you listen to your podcast, you should be able to find those. And if you are interested in partnering with us to further this work, you can visit beautysuperstars.com and look for the red button. Next Tuesday, we begin very deep and personal conversation. It's like we're going to revisit diversity within the beauty industry. And for the next 3 weeks, I'm actually going to have a double header. So it's going to be a very busy start to the month. And I'll have 2 amazing guests next week. And so we'll end the month on the anniversary of the murder of George Floyd. So, of course, that's going to be very intense as well. My first guest is an incredible hair designer, NAHA award winner, and Minneapolis resident, Fatima Ampy, and she has lots to share with us. So I'm super excited to meet with her on next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. And then my second guest will be here on Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. And it's Crystal Wright, and she wrote the Hair, Makeup, and Fashion Styling Guide, Career Guide. And is actually considered the Bible of the freelance industry. And she was an agent for quite a few years with booking talent, hairstylists, makeup artists, fashion stylists, and all of that in the industry behind the scenes with video, TV, film, all of those things. So she is going to bring her years of insight and still working with some of the top artists that are out there right now. With coaching them and getting them, in position to get the best jobs. And so we're going to get her insight as well as what's going on for the folks that she's helped to mentor along the way and see where we are with diversity from that aspect. So there's much more to come in the month of May. I'll tell you more as we go along, and definitely want to see you guys then. And if you're in a salon suite or thinking about a salon suite, I do have a guide that you can use to make sure that you are right on track with making a really profitable business and really creating the type of business and lifestyle that you really want. And it's at beautysuperstars.com. It's called 5 things to know before you actually open your salon suite, but it's perfect even if you're already in a suite, because you can go through the checklist and make sure you're on target. And again, want to thank our sponsor for this series, the Black Beauty Expo, and they are the hottest show for Black creative entrepreneurs in the hair, fashion, photography, modeling, and makeup industry. And so we're preparing for the show August 1st, and I hope that you'll follow them. And I'm global education director for them. And so we're finalizing all of the guests for that. And I think there's a lot more to come. So stay tuned. And if you're interested in being an educator or partnering with us, sponsoring or what have you, to just reach out to me. You can DM me or follow me on Instagram at Mickey Wright. So thank you all so much for being here. This is just been absolutely wonderful. It's like we've got another couple things we'll close out with. Brandy Jones Mack, thanks again, wonderful wisdom. And Samantha Dixon Slaughter, hope. Okay, that one, she's hoping you do some of it virtually, but all of it's virtual. And Latin Image Salon says, thank you for sharing valuable information. So thank you guys for being here. Please reach out to Kai at justaskkai@gmail.com, or feel free to follow her on her social media. So we will see you guys on Tuesday. Thank you so much.
Thank you.